Idea Stream. I'm Mike McIntyre. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to a bruising economy and a battered job market, the millennial generation, people born in the early 80s to the early 2000s, are finding adult life to be an economic slog. Unemployment is double the national rate. The PNC Financial Independence Survey brought back some grim news. More than half of young adults with some college say they're behind where they expected to be financially at this point in their lives, a 26% increase over the year prior. Only a third of 25 to 29-year-olds describe their current job as an established position in their chosen field. Those who are working aren't earning. According to the Labor Department, workers 25 to 34 years old are the only age group with lower average wages in early 2013 than in 2000. And many of these young people are still living at home with their parents due to financial necessity. In March, we talked about the social impact of what's been dubbed the failure to launch syndrome. We talked about how parents deal with the new reality of continuing to support young adult children. This morning, we're digging into what appears to be a deepening economic crisis for that failure to launch cohort. We'll get a handle on the difficulties facing millennials by talking to financial experts and to first-hand experts, millennials themselves. And we'd like to hear from you. In March, we got a number of calls that indicated millennials need to work harder, pull themselves up by their bootstraps, overcome their sense of entitlement. Is that fair? Is that a simplistic solution to a complex problem? What'll today's calls bring? Perhaps you're a young person struggling to find work or one who has found the right job. Call and share your story. Maybe you're a baby boomer still on the hook for your Generation Y kids. Tell us why that affects you and how it affects you. Give us a call. 216-578-0903 is the number. The toll-free number is 866-578-0903. And you can send us an email, news@wcpn.org, to be involved in the conversation. This morning, we're welcoming to Studio 4 Jeremy Fedor. He's a 27-year-old guy, has his master's in history, works as a part-time archivist at Baldwin Wallace. He's an intern with the Cleveland Browns, and I just found out he's the guy that used to serve up the coffee over at Caribou in Rocky River when I stopped by. So good to connect with you again, Jeremy.
Good to see you, too.
Welcome back to the program. Jeremy's wife has a good job, which is keeping the couple financially afloat, and we're going to learn more about his story, his millennial generation employment story. And Bridget Gibbons is with us as well. She's 31, has a bachelor's degree in English, lost her job at a call center that she didn't like very much anyway last year, and is back in school at Tri-C studying nuclear medicine and living in her mom's basement. Hello there,
Hi.
Bridget. Very good to have you with us, and really emblematic of the kind of story we're talking about, and we're going to be excited to hear that throughout the program, too. Mikhail Teshome is with us by phone from Pittsburgh. He's an economist with PNC Bank and the author of a study on youth independence titled PNC Financial Independence Survey. Hello, Mikhail.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Very nice to have you with us. And let me just, a little bit of bookkeeping, let you know that a little bit later we're going to check in with Frances Kalea, who graduated from Cleveland State University last year. She's looking for work in the journalism field. She'll join us on break from her job at a grocery store. And at the bottom of the hour, we'll connect with Carol Rivchin. She's the president of Youth Opportunities Unlimited. It's a Cleveland organization that sets up youth with internships, helps them with their job-seeking skills, and we'll learn about preparing folks for the job market. Mikhail, let me begin with you, though. The youth unemployment rate is historically always higher than the general unemployment rate. So why are today's numbers and the plight of the millennial generation, which is your generation, by the way, why are they considered so much worse?
Well, you're right. Usually the younger cohorts tend to have a higher unemployment rate, but the Great Recession really widened the gap more than usual, and it's been slow to narrow. So, for example, the 20 to 24-year-olds usually have an unemployment rate that's between 3 and 4 percentage points above the national average. In the past 6 months, it's been ranging between 5 and 6 percentage points. So the unemployment rate has been declining, as with other cohorts, but it's been far slower to normalize.
And that's the 20 to 24-year-old age range. And I can tell you by doing research on this program with Ida Liaskowski-Hargitay, who produced today's program, the one difficult factor was not everybody reports their numbers the same way. You're going to tell me a 20 to 24 number. There are some that are 16 to 24, some that are 20 to 29. But when you add them all together, what you are seeing is a much higher unemployment rate for people in the younger generation than the other, in some cases, double the national unemployment rate.
Exactly. There are different breakdowns by age, and so it is kind of hard to compare apples to apples. But you're right. The picture is consistent, though. We're seeing a higher unemployment rate, but then even more, the gap between the national average and the young people is even higher than usual.
And so the question becomes, based on your survey and the economic information that's out there, why? Is it that the millennial generation somehow isn't as good at seeking and securing jobs as the rest of the generations, or is there the economic reality that those jobs just aren't there?
Well, I think it's the economic reality. The Great Recession really dented the labor market and it hit the young people really hard. It has been a slow recovery, very anemic, 4 years into it, and the labor market is very competitive now. We have continued labor force growth, and the companies that are hiring know that they can get more experienced workers with more credentials, and so for the younger folks, it's hard to compete with that. And so that's one cause for it. And then the other thing is, with so much competition in the labor force, wage growth is also very slow. So incomes are stagnant, maybe moving slightly up slowly. And so those that can't find jobs are having a hard time finding them. Those that do are seeing their incomes stay flat.
On your survey, 17% of those between the ages of 20 and 29 with at least some college education identified as totally independent financially. It's down from 23% in 2011. So more people are saying they're not totally independent financially. Let's talk with a couple of representatives of that cohort. Bridget Gibbons, if you were asked that question, are you totally independent financially? Is the answer yes or no?
The answer is no.
No. And let me ask you if this, there was one of the questions that was on the survey that Mikhail did was about expectations. Where did you expect to be at your age?
I really thought that I would have an adult job, something with a 401k, something with health insurance, something with a future to it, some kind of growth potential, something where I would be at a company and they would want to promote me internally, or, I could kind of switch from job to job, but continually climbing some kind of economic ladder, and I just haven't really found that that's the case.
And why is that, do you think?
I think a lot of it is, like you said, about there's just more people with more experience that they can get for less money because there's less work out there. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I think a lot of companies have unrealistic expectations of what they can get out of people. I mean, you're hiring people with bachelor's degrees at $20,000 or $25,000 a year. We have a lot of debt, and it's unfortunate that we have a lot of education and we may be overqualified for a lot of positions, but we still don't get a lot of opportunity to grow because those positions are still full. A lot of people aren't retiring. A lot of people used to take early retirement, and now that's not going to be an option for them because they lost their entire stock portfolio in the crash of 2008. So there's just not as many openings.
You mentioned student debt. We did a whole program on that here on The Sound of Ideas. $26,000 on average that students have in student debt. If you're making $20,000 or $25,000 a year, it's going to be really difficult to cut into that. One thing I wanted to ask you about before I ask Jeremy to join the conversation too is you said sometimes you feel as though you overqualified for some jobs. You worked in a call center. Mm-hmm. It seems as though you probably wouldn't need a degree in English for that.
No.
And yet they required a bachelor's degree?
Yeah, they did. And I just felt like a lot of people that were there were unhappy. I mean, everybody was looking for outside work. Internal promotions, although they were available, sometimes they weren't really a great opportunity. You didn't make a lot more money. I think the average raise for a promotion was about $2,000, and then you were often required to travel with, no compensation for missing your weekend or evenings with your family. And
wasn't a great job.
I think everyone there just kind of felt like a high school graduate could easily do this. An eighth grade dropout could have done my job, and it would have been a great job for someone like that. But when you have a bachelor's degree and you're doing a very repetitive task all day, it's almost like factory work.
216-578-0903 is the phone number to call, 866-578-0903 to react to the conversation we're having here or to give us another branch of it. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the millennial generation, the difficulties finding work. You can can send us an email, too, news@wcpn.org. And again, the number, 216-578-0903. Mikhail, what I'm hearing from Bridget is this idea that there are a lot of people that feel as though they're overqualified for some of the jobs they have. What do the numbers tell you in terms of when people are employed, particularly those that have college degrees, that they're working in jobs that aren't the kind of things that they trained for?
Right. I don't have the exact numbers with me, but generally what we're seeing is that there are a lot of underemployed young people. And keep in mind here, we have the highest number of college students we've ever had now. So more and more people are going to college. When you combine that with fewer job opportunities, you do have an oversupply of qualified people. And so the underemployment rate is quite high, especially among young people.
The statistics still do show that if you have a college degree, your chances of being unemployed are much less than if you don't have a college degree.
Absolutely.
So clearly the notion is that college would still pay off, but that is still being deeply questioned now, I think, by folks that spend a lot of money to get degrees. Jeremy Fedor, you have a degree, and an advanced degree, a master's degree in history, concentration on archiving, that type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Are you happy that you got your college degree now that you're working in a part-time job with that, and then another temporary job that is nothing really to do with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I just want to be in a job where I can wake up and be excited to go to it. And I'm deeply passionate about history, and it's frustrating that there's only a few jobs here and there that require the credentials that I have. And again, I wouldn't trade it because I worked at a coffee shop, and for some people that's great, but for me, waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go serve coffee wasn't for me. I care more about teaching someone about history, or creating exhibits, or preserving documents and things of that nature.
I can attest to the fact that you did 1-minute history lessons right in the line at that coffee shop. But the fact of the matter is that you're not working in the field that you wanted to be working in, and fully. And Bridget called it an adult job. I think you've referred to it as a big boy job. What about if people were to point and say, listen, you picked kind of an esoteric field, you spent a lot of money on a degree that isn't really bankable, and that's on you. That if the kids today, when they're going to college, ought to say, here's the kind of degree that'll pay, that's the kind of degree I'm going after. Is some of that on you, or how do you reply to that?
Well, and to go back a little bit, I am doing what I want to do, in both jobs. It's just not having the big boy with the benefits, with the vacation, with all that is the kicker. But those who say that I went into something that it isn't bankable, but I could go get a business degree and still not have a job, and I could get a business degree and hate what I do, and at least I don't know if it's an our generation thing, but the fact to wake up happy and to go into the work that you want to do is important to me, and I don't know, I think I get that from my parents. I mean, they've always pushed my siblings and I to go into things we want to do. My brother's got an illustration degree. My sister's a teacher. My brother works at a record store. I mean, and my other brother's got a film study degree. So I think history looks a little better there.
You've got it covered, yeah. How much do your parents help and support you? And I'm going to ask Bridget that same question, which is probably in a different way. In your case, you're married. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I don't think the two of you are living at your parents' house, are you?
No, I'm actually very fortunate to have a loving wife that takes care of a lot. I couldn't do it without her. But my parents live in North Olmsted, so if we don't have anything for dinner, I can call Mom and say, "Hey, Mom, you making dinner?" And then we go, we'll drop by home and maybe go shopping. And if there's some paper towels over here, or if there's some stuff in boxes. And Mom's great with that. She loves helping us out. So that's really beneficial. I mean, just in little things here and there. Especially dinners. So, Mom, I don't know what's for dinner tonight.
And Bridget, you at some point moved out of home and then back to home,
yeah,
right?
I moved into the dorms at Kent State when I went there when I was 18, and I didn't move back in with my parents till I was 29. And I was lucky to have a place to go. I live in a basement. It's very cool. I don't get to see the sun, but I'm lucky to have that. I mean, I am still grateful. I mean, they're feeding me. They're letting me buy clothes when I need them. And I I'm able to go to school and I don't have to work full time while I'm in school. I tutor at Tri-C. I'm a Tri-C employee. I love what I do now. I mean, I wouldn't go back to being financially independent and living on my own and being in a job that made me miserable every day. Whereas now, like, I can see I'm going to have a much, much better future. It's a great investment what I'm doing now.
And that's really thanks to your parents. And we talked about that on our show in March, where in some cases it's a burden on parents because they expected to be at a different point in their lives at this point, and not have somebody living in the basement. On the other hand, there are a lot of parents that are like, I think this kid is awesome. And as an adult, they're a friend of mine. And I kind of like the interaction I have with them. And I wonder